I guess we'll get into the juicy part now. I see a mortgage.
Yeah, I got one of those sick mortgages.
$8,000 a month.
Is what I put towards it. I think minimum's like $7,200.
And what about property taxes, though? Because that's another good chunk.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's all included.
Okay.
So that's mortgage, property taxes, insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, a massive portion of that is getting by property taxes. And then of the property taxes, like 30-40% of it gets recaptured by the state and given to other portions of the state anyway. So it's not even supporting Austin.
So why did you decide to buy? Because it seemed like you went from...
I know.
Like, because it seems as though like 8 months ago, you wouldn't have qualified for the loan. And now you're able to qualify. So within 8 months, you decide, okay, I'm making a decent chunk of money. Let's go and put it towards a house at a 6.5% interest rate.
Yeah, which is brutal. This was, I think, when it comes financially, I don't do a lot of impulsive choices. Yeah. This is one of the more impulsive choices, but of course, it just also happens to be basically $900,000. That's a big thing to be impulsive about. Yeah. So like me, but I needed more space. So Austin neighborhoods, starting from downtown, kind of the radiuses around it, the first inner loop of highways, maybe throw a map on screen, I don't know. A lot of those neighborhoods, the houses have been bought, torn down, built up new. Now they're starting to do the outer ring. I bought just slightly in the outer ring, one of the first places in this neighborhood that is doing that. So I really think if it follows the trend, this is more of a bet, which is not a great way to go off things, but if it follows the trend of the rest of Austin, I think this neighborhood in the coming years, there's houses for sale, tear it down, build a nice new house. And then again, one zip code over, this is a $2.5 million house versus $900,000 here. So I think it has potential.
The issue that I see is that you're spending more money owning the home than you could just pay renting it.
I know,
and you're tying up 20% of your down payment. I just don't see the upside. You having just recently come into a whole lot of money through this channel, not knowing the trajectory, it's probably going to go really well for you, most likely. But in that small chance, the YouTube algorithm changes, something changes, you have no control over those sort of things. Probably you're safe. But spending this amount of money on a house, I would have told you just to rent.
I know. You told me to rent.
You would be.
We talked about it.
You could probably rent a home similar to this, I'm guessing, for under $7,000 a month.
I couldn't find it, but I also wasn't being patient. I bet if I waited, I could have found something like it.
Probably.
I wasn't patient.
But you weren't patient at the expense of the next 30 years of having payments. Yeah. Really high payments overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the house, I also have to say, is it's a newer. It's not a newer neighborhood, but this is like the only new house. As we were driving up, I'm like, oh, that's got to be it.
Again, that's the inner. That's the loop thing I was talking about. So that was more of a play. We'll see if it works out.
The ideal play, in my opinion, would have been to buy a fixer, buy something that like needs a good chunk of work to it,
please,
and then you buy it for way less, maybe like what's the average price in this?
I've done that 3 times. I hate that process.
Why?
I hate that process because it's so annoying. This is the first time I've been able to turnkey ever. Yeah. And it's been so nice. Instead of endless construction going on and just bullshit.
Every day that's costing you $280 a day just for you to be able to say that. And the newness is going to wear off. Give it about 6 to 8 months. You're going to be itching. You're going to think, I need some more space. The driveway is a little too steep. Can't fit my Ferrari up there. It's going to scrape when I have
a 2019 Jeep Cherokee, and I have no plan of upgrading, to be very clear.
When you get an exotic sports car, convertible, you're not going to be able to pull it up the right angle.
That driveway's
scrape on the splitter. I'm just saying, it's a very impulsive choice.
It was.
I would have preferred to have seen you save some money. Yeah. Maybe with renting nearby. Similar house for less, yeah.
So my equity position in this house is like 20% of my net worth. That's way too much tied into a primary residence for a net worth.
The thing is, your income is skewing.
In my position.
Your income is skewing everything, so it's haywire. You can't really look at that the same way because you're making so much, and you could hypothetically, I could pay off the home if I wanted to in a few years if things continue with the same.
I could pay it off now.
Well, I mean, but that would rely on you selling other things.
Yes, no.
And then paying tax on those things. So I don't quite know about that.
No, you're right.
So after
taxes,
you'd still be a little screwy on that. Yeah. But just with all the expenses on that, that's something that really stood out to me as something that just you got to cool it on the impulsive bit.
That's like the only thing financially I've been impulsive on, for what it's worth.